Whoops. Whoop. Get that out of there. Uh, wow. We're so small. We're so small and so young. Whatever happened to us? I wouldn't be able to tell you. What I can tell you is that this is a bit of a different vibe from our other RPG clinic deep dives that we've done. This is a specific example of an episode in which the players are doing everything wrong. I suppose everything wrong is a bit harsh, but the reality is that when we see them, that's what. Yeah, we got better resolution, we got better lights, we have better equipment. We've been growing slowly, but here we are, growing thanks to you and thanks to everybody else. But this is an episode of a role-playing game in which the players are experiencing the backlash of events that have occurred of their own doing, things that have messed up. In Exalted specifically, it is an extremely bad idea to break an oath that has been sanctified, and that is what has occurred in the episode before this one. It is a serious moment. The players are going to experience the first death of the Chronicle, of a beloved NPC, one that they had recently grown to know and love. And that's a difficult tightrope to walk sometimes. We want the players to feel like they're still emotionally in control, that they still have agency in the game, and yet things are going to happen that will take them out of that control, at least temporarily. And we have to see what's going to happen as Summer Blaze. Yeah, the botches. This was probably the first episode that we streamed that I would say really kind of went to a place that the players were not successful. And in a way, that's definitely a thing that you want to bring to your players. You want to make them feel like they're not always in control, so that it's not just a win after win after win. But I'd say that this is a pivotal episode, an episode that defined the rest of the Chronicle and then defined the other streams that happened afterwards. Yeah, they get their feels stabbed a little bit, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen, because the other thing that I'm going to point out is that this happened years ago. This was, I believe, 3 years previous, and as a result, we're gonna possibly see me make mistakes. In fact, no, we probably will see me make mistakes because, of course, everything's different in hindsight, and I'll even call those out too and see how I might have done things differently in going through. You don't need to know that much about Exalted or even about Exalt Twitch to follow along. What we're going to do is just go through. We're going to actually go through at an accelerated speed, and I'll slow things down if it becomes important. But I'm going to be stopping and starting so that we can get an idea of exactly where we're at and to feel things out, to appreciate what my thought processes were and what I'm thinking about and what I'm observing from my players as we go through and play. If only I had video footage of my previous blunders to learn from it, sure, but if you have video footage, then it means that other people will see them forever. So there's a risk to recording things, but we do have them. If there are any questions or comments, please throw them out in chat. I really want to hear them because we're in this together. This is a moment, a beloved moment for a lot of people who actually saw this, and it defined how these players also went forward in the future. So join me, and we'll see what we can do to look at it. Now, first thing I'm going to point out is, of course, because this was 3 years ago, the image quality is not going to be as good, and the sound quality isn't going to be as good as we've had it before. I appreciate that, Kung Fu Fenris. Hopefully that's not the beer and moonshine liquor talking, but I'll take it anyway. And make sure that you understand that even if the audio isn't great, if for some reason you're having difficulty hearing it, let me know and we will fix it. You're dead sober now. Well, don't be dead, just be sober. I actually have to find the beginning of the episode because I accidentally clicked the wrong button. So let's see where we are here. And we'll use this as a sound test as well and see where we are here. So let's go.
Yep. And take a breather, because she's sure that...
Any moment. Okay, so we've already started. So rewind. For that out there in the chat, I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, I'm going to ask each of you to state your last known whereabouts and actions in the game so that we can kind of keep track of you all. We're going to start with Val.
I'm in Blue Sky with Tepid Exquisite Tide. Artist has been most partially devoured. I don't know.
So what we're doing here...
I'm there. I just pulled out an orange...
What we're doing here is I'm getting the players to recap their positions at the beginning of the game. The previous game, Scott, the player on the left, has broken an oath, and in doing so, we've guaranteed that things are going to go bad. I want the players to understand where they are because they've also all separated because I have players who like to split, and they'll pay for it this time around.
I have 8 modes total, 2 health levels. Not doing good.
Well,
What about you?
I followed the dragon-blooded soldiers who were taking away Exquisite Tide, but speaks of silence. They took her outside the city walls and led her into the crowd of soldiers that were gathered outside the city. So I am currently at the front gates, still in Nexus, but just at the gates. And I have a lot of motes, and I'm doing pretty well.
All things considered, you're actually not doing so bad.
I'm okay.
What about Jorik?
Jorik,
I'm also not wearing the jacket, which feels weird to me.
Jorik is currently running breakneck away from what was a meeting of the Council of Nine, of the Guild. They're all dead, killed by Infinite Dirge, and possibly others we don't know, and possibly other things we don't know. And this means that Jorik has broken his oath to the emissary, or the person he thinks is the emissary, which was to protect them for a month. And this is really bad news. So he is running like a demon.
We decided how Jorik runs. Do you want to share that?
Oh,
with
boy.
the,
I don't think we actually did.
Like an eclipse out of
did we?
Malpheus?
Does he shout anything as he's running?
So SD power still active. So in the recap, what I'm also doing is I'm getting a gauge of their emotional state. I want to find out how the players are feeling about what's going on because they realize that something isn't quite right, that bad things are going to happen. But because they haven't gotten to that point in this chronicle yet, even though we're 20 episodes in, things haven't ever been this bad. But they seem excited, they seem to be in good spirits, which means that I'm ready to continue. If the players are coming in dragging their feet and looking like they're already wanting to quit, that's something to keep in mind. We don't want to make the players feel awful. We want their characters to feel awful and for the players to be interested in how that affects their characters and how that goes forward. So that's important. Real Brickwall, I hope it was just a session that was canceled and not the whole game. But how I decided to wear the jacket, I'll have to find out when I started wearing it, and that we can go lower. It's a limbo, absolutely.
Like a Pokemon. Breakneck too soon. God damn it. Oh God.
AKA the new Bremen
I'm
effect.
kidding. I'm running because it's serious.
I'm running because it's serious. See, they're teasing him. That's fine, and he's taking it with good spirits. But we also have to recognize that that's going to end soon.
That's where we're at.
I'm glad Jorik runs like an anathema.
Pretty fast and desperately. 17?
Yeah.
When Jork became a meme, it was kind of around here.
Jorik does the Naruto run. Both hands like flung out.
Oh
behind you.
yeah, actually that makes much more sense.
It makes me like I have less wind resistance.
Again, I apologize for the sound quality.
So silly.
Whereas
I have one.
Ray is the Naruto run that's hopping between like tree branches.
Oh.
I don't even touch
At
the ground.
way high speeds.
Yeah.
Oh
Naruto run different.
my God, Hook of Dirt. Guys, what are we doing with ourselves?
Oh my God,
We
I'm
did the
so
council. Oh, I'm fine.
I am. Yes, I am. I am.
Now remember that it happened only 20 episodes in, but remember the 20 episodes in is 60 hours of play for us. So it's enough. Remember that my players are also reacting to a chat that you can't see currently. But they are interacting and they have an audience. So that's going to change how they're going to move forward, but it's something that I have to keep in mind.
Yeah, we're gonna try to once again keep good notes today.
You gonna try to keep your nose today?
They were okay
I
last
think
week.
you'll succeed. I like your chances.
All right, let's see if we can
Yeah, start prepared.
boost that up.
You guys aware of the tale of the Sword of Damocles?
Not intimately.
Now, a lot of people think that the Sword of Damocles is just a metaphor, that there's something hanging over your head that could fall and destroy you at any time. But that's not actually the tale of the Sword of Damocles. Damocles was pandering to his king, Dionysus, and saying that it must be wonderful to be surrounded by the trappings of wealth, to wield power as he did. Dionysus said that he could get this taste of power, that Damocles and Dionysus could trade seats. Damocles took him up on his offer eagerly, and he sat on the throne again, surrounded by wealth and power. But Dionysus arranged it so that there was a sword hung by a single horse's hair directly above the throne. Damocles saw this sword and realized that with power and wealth comes the ever-present threat that the sword could come down at any moment. The Council of Nine in Nexus has just witnessed the sword coming down in the form of an abyssal. Jorik, perhaps not tasting wealth and power at this moment, has the metaphorical sword of Damocles hanging over him, an oathbreaker. The penalty, his own anima turning against him. A sanctified oath is one that should always be kept.
So I start every session with a short monologue to get people kind of out of that, out of that sitting down excitement and away from the audience, and I want them to start focusing on me. People have started calling this the Johnologue. I take it. I get it. In this particular case, I'm actually referencing a very specific myth, the Sword of Damocles, in order to set up these players for a moment to indicate bad things are happening and this is tense and that the sword is going to fall. Even I don't know how the sword is going to fall yet. I just know at the beginning of this session that Scott's character has fucked up and that I have to punish him for that. And that I have to make that punishment worthy of the power of the Eclipse Cast Anima, which basically says that if you sanctify an oath and somebody breaks that oath, then that person will be visited by terrible misfortune. And the thing is that Jorik did it to himself. He swore an oath which he could not follow up on. And so I am punishing for this, and I know that I have to punish him for this, and I have to make it hurt, because otherwise I'm essentially indicating that his power is not strong. But I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I am going to make sure, though, that they understand that they're in for it. The oath that he broke, Real Brick Wall, was that he would protect the Council of Nine in Nexus for 1 month. He failed to protect them as Infinite Dirge and an Abyssal has just slaughtered all of them.
I'm going to start, however, in Blue Sun.
Blue Sky?
Blue Sky, what am I saying? Blue Sun is a Neverwinter term, and we're not playing Neverwinter.
Not
Yeah.
today.
Not today.
Seeing as how you had to repair a heart that had been punctured alongside ribs that had been cracked open, skin that had been flayed back, Exquisite Tide is doing remarkably well. Obviously, this is the easiest thing to repair, but the added challenge of you already being quite hurt yourself is there.
I do believe I've used some actual healing on her in addition to a dose or two of Touch Blissful Release, so that in addition to her being exalted should have her decently patched up, all things considered.
Do you have anything that you're currently working on?
That's actually a very important point, Real Brick Wall and Kung Fu Fenders. Jorik failed by dereliction, not by lack of ability. He was not present with the Council of Nine, swore to protect them, but just wasn't around. And because the Abyssals knew where he was, they took that moment in order to strike. That means that it deserves a little more punishment from a storyteller, even though technically lack of ability versus dereliction of duty wouldn't matter in terms of this oath. It matters in terms of player emotion. So it matters in terms of me and how I choose to punish it.
How's my pour yourself a drink?
Alright.
Having
fair.
closed up the incision she made to extract the Jade Arrow head. Yep. And take a breather, because she's sure that so far, every time she thought that she had a moment to relax, it hasn't been true, so she's just going to enjoy the minute or 5 minutes or however long this lasts before the next problem arises, before the next time she walks into a trap.
Now, Three-Face Shadow.
Here, Kate is actually being a very generous player. She knows that the shit's going to hit the fan for Scott, and she knows that her character at the moment is pretty safe. So instead of starting something really complicated somewhere else, she's granting, basically by what she's saying here, she's granting me permission to say, we'll get back to you. That there's something else that we need to deal with first in order to not pile on drama after drama after drama.
Is present with you. she's currently leaning against one of the pillars, looking out over the balcony, trying to see if there's any other threat coming at you.
She's in much better shape.
She's
I'm
in much
gonna
better
leave her to that.
She's still hurt, but not significantly.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the doorman
That's right.
is rolling his
Thank
head,
you for reminding me.
waking up slowly.
I thought about it on my walk over, but I forgot since. Thank you. I'm gonna go over to him. Catch him, because I believe he's like sitting.
Yes, he's been tied into a chair.
So I'm gonna sort of stop in front of him.
First he realizes that he's tied up. Then he realizes that you're standing in front of him clutching an artifact spear. When his eyes go wide, his mouth clenches shut, and he starts to tremble.
You sustained great pain and did not speak about a week ago in our favor. Today, perhaps someone had a better price. Whatever it is, seems one of my friends has done you some damage. Think that's enough payback, if you will. You're very strong. We have more money if that's what you require. In the future, if anyone offers you a price, know that
So at the moment, what Kate's doing is she's making sure that an NPC who they thought was an ally and who recently betrayed them, or did he? She's making sure that he's okay with it. But this isn't critical to what we're looking at right now, so we're going to skip this part.
Have anything here at the moment.
I wouldn't mind just doing a quick look around to see if by any miracle some golden tigers followed me.
There are no golden tigers in the near vicinity.
Damn it. Damn it. Okay.
When Liz is talking about the Golden Tigers, she's talking about allies that she's recently recruited. I don't want to bring allies into this right now because I also don't want to punish her by screwing her allies over. She's not the one who messed up. Jorik was the one who messed up. If I add her allies to the mix, since I need the punishment to feel harsh and I need it to stick, I don't want to involve any extraneous NPCs who couldn't normally protect themselves, which includes the Golden Tigers at this point.
So, I guess I'll just start heading back.
Where?
Back to, Blue Sky.
Okay. Heading back is relatively easy. I mean, are you heading back in any specific way? I know that you're fond of
Hopping along the
rooftops.
rooftops, John, as per usual.
I'll actually ask you to roll with stealth for me, please.
Woo!
Giving her a roll, this is a roll that I expect her to make. I expect her to make any stealth roll at this point because her character's kind of specced out for it. The reason why I'm doing so is because I still want the characters to feel like they're powerful. Every once in a while, give them a role that you know that they're going to succeed at, just because otherwise, why do they have the dots on the sheet?
Oh yeah, does this count as... Oh no, that's athletics. Alright.
You could get stealth. Parkour was a specialty if you wanted to.
That is 4.
Alright, so well, on your way back, it's you are relatively undisturbed, leaping across rooftops, making your way through Nexus, which seems to have a little bit of like a damp pall cast over it. People in this area are very aware that no one's going through the wall, and they're more worried than people who are further into the city, for whom the news may not matter or reach as much. Although merchants, realizing that there's nothing that's coming in or out, are starting to lose money.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, anybody who's paid to protect the caravan has to be paid every day they work. If they're just sitting outside, waiting to get in, there's more and more money being filtered out of their pockets, without any extra profit to show for it.
Right.
Obviously 0, yeah.
Blue Sky currently is relatively peaceful now that the 5 Dragonblood have left with their prisoner, or rather, their recovered prisoner. But that's not really what's important right now about your peace. What's more important is someone else's chaos. You're currently in one of the
Okay.
guild's largest offices.
So at this point now,
An antechamber,
I'm moving on to Scott. I'm making it very clear that there's going to be chaotic elements around it. I am constantly preparing him for this. I don't want to surprise him, and I don't want to make it too heavy on him. At the same time, I need him to know that things are going to go bad. He's been reminded of this all week while he's waiting for this episode to start, but I am keeping that expectation alive because I also want him to be prepared. I don't want to take all of his agency away, and I don't want to punish him so badly that it's going to make him, Scott, feel like he no longer wants to play. But setting expectations is a great way to prepare him for this and to also get him excited for what he's about to do, which is to roleplay a character who's about to get screwed.
surrounded by dead council members, and your bow is frantically whispering for you to run.
I'll get over my body. It's not gonna fall. I check to make sure I have my crossbow
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
I start moving forward. I kick the door open into the street. I want to take off. I'm heading back to Blue Sky as quickly as possible. I'm gonna try to duck through. I'm gonna try to duck through my old office on the way.
All right.
Just to,
As you kick the door open,
Okay.
you can hear a booming voice, amplified by essence. The anathema has slain the Council of Nine.
I've just blamed him for the thing that the Abyssals did. You know, that's a start. It's not enough, but it's a start. You'll also note that while you can't hear it properly, the music that's being played under the background is now a more high octane, a more tense piece of music with a faster beat. To differentiate between the other two characters, he's in trouble, and that music is going to make sure that he knows it.
Okay. Okay, so I hear this. I'm still like I'm like out into the street. I hear this. First of all, is it clear where that's coming from? Or is it just a
It's a very loud voice coming from somewhere in the building.
Is it trying to reach everyone in the building, or is it trying to spread outside? That voice?
Well, it definitely has spread outside, so I imagine it would reach everybody in the building.
Okay. Let me know, I guess, when I'm near enough to hear it.
You're,
if I could.
you're way too far away.
All right, sounds good.
It's not
Sorry.
definitely.
Oh, well, it's worth a try.
Worth a try.
Ah.
Hearing this, I grit my teeth, like clench my hands. I want to reach around, grab a drainage pipe on the side of the building. I want to climb up. I don't know how many stories tall it
What's
is.
your
But
limit?
it's up. My limit trigger. Another character deliberately undermines my authority.
Well, he's not really undermining you. In fact, he's
Yeah.
giving you more
Kinda
authority than
being
perhaps you
Hey!
deserve. So I'll have you roll Dex Athletics.
Thank you very much.
Jorek!
Hooray! I got one success.
Oh my god, you almost botched.
You do manage to make it as you call hand over fist, kicking yourself up, and you make it to the top of the roof. People are now starting to spill out into the streets, looking around. It doesn't seem anyone's seen you just yet.
Awesome.
The abyssals are nowhere to be seen.
Well, that's good. Oh, here's what I want to do.
Yeah, using music over voice chat is incredibly difficult, and it involved a lot of trial and error for us to get it right while I was running my game from a remote location when I moved to the United States for a couple of years. While I was there, and I still wanted to make sure that that music could not only be communicated to the players, but also to the audience, I ended up having to use a complicated sort of mixture of different software. Specifically, I ended up using Voicemeeter, Voicemeeter, to make sure that I could put that not only the sound mix not only into OBS, which is what I used to stream, but also into the communication software that I used at the time we were using Google Hangouts, so that I put the background music in with my voice through the mic.
I want to take heartstring, notch and arrow,
What are you doing?
getting their attention. You'll like this, don't worry.
Oh,
Yeah, I draw. I want to suffuse my arrow with essence so that it glows. I'm not sure if I need to use like maybe wise arrow or something.
Sure.
Perfect.
one mode. Perfect.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yikes.
And fire it. Look, I'm on top of a building. I'm not gonna fire it down into a crowd. I'm gonna fire it across the rooftops just to try to get people's attention. And I'm here. I also want to activate my cast mark. I don't know. When did I spend all this?
Your cast mark's already activated.
Actually, let's try it 15 now.
So you can put that note back there.
Thanks, dude.
You may need them.
But like I'm glowing as well, I suppose.
They look up. A few of them point.
Awesome. That's great. I kind of hold the bow aloft and hold my other handle off, and I want to try to shout as loud as I possibly my little lungs can. People of Nexus, I am Jorik. I am a member of the guild. I am a chosen of the Unconquered Sun. I did not kill the Council of Nine.
That's it.
And I will lead Nexus to greatness.
Oh, yeah.
So that there.
This is very good.
Scott wants to have Jorik be well liked. Jorik is a social character. It's important for me that I don't invalidate his character by immediately rendering him a social pariah forever. Admittedly, we're just in Nexus, right? They can move somewhere else and he'd have at least somewhat of a clean slate. But at the same time, a lot of this campaign is happening around Nexus, and we don't leave Nexus for quite a while after this episode. So still something that we have to keep in mind, and something that I want to make sure that while he does have a punishment coming up, it doesn't have to involve the very basis of his character.
We're gonna build a wall.
There's already a wall.
Another one, the bigger one.
There's a murmur in the crowd, and someone says, "If you're going to lead Nexus to greatness, why did you kill them?"
You have no reason to believe me. I did not kill them. I will bring you the head of the one who did.
He's not. I already know that the NPC who killed all of these, the Council of Line, is stronger individually than Jorik. And while it might mean that he'll need to get his group together to take him down, I know personally that I don't want to take this NPC out this session. I don't want him to receive a punishment and a victory at the same time. Clawing back a punishment by getting a little bit of a victory is one thing, but invalidating a punishment by essentially winning anyway, it doesn't make the punishment feel very good. So I have clocked in the back of my mind that no matter what happens, I'm going to try my best without railroading to keep the NPC, Infinite Dirge, alive so that Jorik does not get to come out of his oath breaking feeling like everything happened for the best.
Who is it? Who killed the Council of Nine?
There are creatures of darkness here. They are not all creatures of darkness. They are reflections of me. Shadowy reflections. Infinite Dirge. He is here. He's dangerous. He seeks to topple power structures. He seeks to undo everything that you have done.
See Scott's hands? He's nervous. He's pulling his rings on and off. He's fiddling with dice. He's fiddling with his essence beads. He's fiddling with his character sheet. I am clocking this. I do not believe that it is him trying to roleplay his character. I believe that it's Scott himself. I'm okay with this.
As a city, as a people, together, we can defeat him.
He lies. And it rumbles
It's okay if you
throughout.
want to poop your pants, Dry Queen.
It rumbles throughout the building and spilling out into the street far louder than you can call out yourself.
Infinite Dirge, show yourself.
Scott is a professional actor. And yet he is not injecting Jorik with like the rage or fear or whatever right now. He's still in planning mode in his head. He's not sunk entirely into the role-playing aspect of this. That's okay. Players are often not fully into the role-playing. They're still tactically thinking. In fact, that's a lot of what I have to do at the same time, which sometimes means for a more muted performance. I clock this and I move on.
Someone else points out, there's no one here but you.
And I will assemble
It's a long pause. It's like 8-9 seconds of pause that he did not talk. He's thinking still.
my allies, and I will deal with the threats to the city, here and now. These abyssals, and that army that is disrupting your livelihoods. With your help, with your backing, with your faith, we can do this.
You start seeing that there are mercenaries surrounding the building, popping their heads up. They're not drawing their weapons, but they are definitely present, trying to figure out whether they're supposed to go in one way or the other.
Where is it? So, raising my hands again, just sort of like quiet any murmurs that I can hear.
You're still holding your bow, I
I
assume?
am holding it in one hand and one fist.
Okay.
I say, I'm not alone in this fight. We can defeat our enemies together. The chosen of the unconquered sun. And I'd like to try to instill the whole crowd with a new intimacy. No, inspire? I'm trying to think here.
Well, you can
I guess
inspire a
I'm-
crowd to try to inspire an
Emotion.
emotion.
I'd like to try to instill a new intimacy in them, which is awe for the chosen of the unconquered sun.
Okay.
Okay,
And you're spending...
I get to reroll ones.
Oh.
Jorek.
Jorek.
I'm feeling
Bring it down,
close.
Jorek.
so Scott's trying
You can,
something.
however, ask to inspire awe in a thing. You can ask them to... You can inspire awe,
Okay, can I?
but you can't inspire a thing. That's an instill.
Right, so that's what I meant. So instill a new intimacy of awe for the
There's
sword.
a big penalty for trying to do this to a crowd.
How big?
Instill. I'll have to check. Do you have my quick notes?
No.
There might be something in here that you can use.
Yep. And this is me needing to check the rules. What Scott is doing,
The longer quick answer.
what Scott's doing is he's trying to get the crowd back on his side, and I'm willing to let that happen.
John? I'd like to try.
Well, who dares wins. So your pool has...
But I'm making it difficult.
You have a presence excellence?
I do.
Oh, praise Jorek.
3, 4. No one's reroll. That's not right. But
That's okay. Force some bad.
Many mercenaries start to stand out a bit more. They weren't exactly hyped up right at the start. And yet you lied.
How have I lied?
You promised salvation for these people, but you have brought nothing but pain, destruction. We've seen the buildings fall. We've seen death in your wake.
Here and now.
Infinite Dirge is a tool.
I will. Infinite Dirge, if that is you. I may bring destruction, I may bring death, but at least I'm here. What have you ever brought?
You hear footsteps. And then crawling up.
Scott's still
You see the abyssal in front of you.
so Scott's still fidgeting. He's now taken his watch off. He's nervous.
Infinite Dirge for shattered oaths.
From silent struggle. And I know you have shattered an oath today. And I know, in my heart of hearts, that the shattering of your oath will be paid upon your bones. And I will see your chivalrous death.
Perhaps you will. But not this day. And I'd like to run back to Blue Sky. Actually, if I can, I'd like to leap off the roof and roll onto the next one and just like, race style.
Oh, Ray style. Remember I channeled you that one time?
Alright, so if you're leaping off the building, that's a dexterity athletics roll for me, please.
I'm okay to let him get
Roll
away
after
because
him.
I'm okay to let him get away because I want the players to regroup. I want to get them all together.
Sure, you dive off the building and you do a perfect roll as you stand up.
Whoa!
Ray takes a half second from way off in the distance. She can just sense. Oh, Jorek, I don't know what you just did.
Not this day.
Exclamation mark.
Dies.
Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah.
You can hear as you start taking off down the street. I can't stop thinking about how you've named him Fitty Dirge. Infinite Dirge slamming into the ground, one fist, one knee, and one foot, 3-point landing.
God damn it.
And you can hear the whisper of soul steel as he draws his dieclave from behind his back, and the pounding of mail on ground as he starts to give chase.
Oh boy. I'm gonna give it everything I got, buddy.
Screaming Jorik. Oh, no.
I will ram through the door when I get there. I'm just going.
So as you're running through the door,
I think I gotta get in as fast as I possibly
where?
can. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna run to blue sky as fast as I possibly
You're
can.
running
That's
in
a
the
fair
direction.
Right? Let's go a fair distance.
all right.
I gotta go.
What is your dexterity athletics pool?
4.
Excellent. And
Excellent.
what is your wits awareness pool?
My wits awareness pool is 6.
Do you know why I'm asking you for your wits awareness pool?
That's a join combat. It's not about
That's
combat.
join battle.
Join battle. Let's take it.
Okay. In terms of a chase, his character is not great. A dexterity athletic pool of 4 means that he is slightly above human average, which means that he's actually pretty far below average for a powerful NPC like Infinite Dirge. I realize that at this point it would be unfair of me to let him get away because the other 2 characters have a far better pool for this, and they would have difficulty escaping him. So I can't let this go. I'm starting combat. I'm still not necessarily going to make the combat terribly difficult for him. I want to scare him. I don't actually really want to damage him too badly. I'd still rather get the party together.
Could be worse.
Tap, that is what Jorik.
Scream
And
of
what
the
is that that you say is worse?
It could be worse. I have a 6.
It's okay, you rolled some successes, so you can ignore those ones. They don't matter.
Nope.
Excellent.
Oh,
We have our initiative.
Yeah.
Dirge is
Oh, wow.
okay. Close it.
Our initiative.
Technically close distance, we're currently at short range.
The initiative tracker.
Distance. Be there someday.
Versus opponent. Oh, I see. Okay. So he's gonna try to keep me too close. If he succeeds, I get to put my defense.
What?
My
Yep,
defense.
you get to do that. Now,
Yes.
in the meantime, I should point out that if you manage to continue to run from him, it's going to take you about, at a full tilt, 10 minutes to return to blue sky.
Oh boy.
Now, you may be more likely to get away if you can hide,
Yeah.
or you can try to run at full tilt. He isn't, like,
What you're not seeing is that in the chat, they're starting to ask whether this is Jorik's death scene.
There.
Go for it.
I'm raising my defense to 6.
Pump the D. Go for it.
Okay.
That's-
That's it.
What's your defense? Then?
Six.
It's combat movement, though. You're defending combat movement, not defense.
Oh, I'm sick. Presumably I cannot. That.
I believe here.
Sorry.
I need my.
Yeah,
This.
no,
Go grab that. I'll grab
All
it.
right. So, a rush. Roll your dexterity athletics.
Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, it's contested. I see. So I'll take those notes back. Yep. I got 3 successes.
I got 5.
Jorik.
So
Screaming
he's
Jorik.
closed the distance with you. You're now at melee range. However, that was his action this turn. But you can't escape him this turn.
Okay.
Unless you want to try disengage.
That's my next question.
Okay, so that's your dex dodge.
Yeah.
This costs you 2 initiative.
That's fine. I mean, it's not fun. I can have this though. So
Go for it.
I'm also trying to clock the other 2 players. I know that I shouldn't be leaving them alone for too long. I also know that this is an important part, and since they seem engaged in what's happening to Scott, I feel like it's all right to leave them alone for a little bit.
1, 2, 3, 4 more.
A man is will to survive. He's the Jorik the Jorik, trying not to die.
I'm afraid that the
No.
defender in this action rolls 5
Oh,
successes.
no, darn.
And manages to maintain his speed to you.
Seduce him, Jorik.
Round, regain 5 moves.
Oh god.
Yay! I need those.
If only indeed.
Shush you. You've got plenty of moves right now.
Don't say that. I go through them so fast anyway.
You've seen sun set on our city. Now you.
I hawk a loogie in response.
Oh.
And just like over my shoulder. As I'm
God.
attempting to run. Hawk a loogie. I spell.
I hawk a loogie.
Attack you with his dive. He
All right,
slams
Scott.
his foot into the ground, trying to kick at your knee as a feint before he drives the sword towards your chest. What's your defense actually?
7.
4, 5, 6, 7,
I thought about doing that tap
Just roll
tap.
it.
That's being cheap.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
Let's go down, boyos.
Oh no.
17, 18. That beats your defense?
Yes, sure
By
does.
how much?
8 threshold successes.
8 threshold successes, rolling 25 dice damage.
I have soak.
What's your soak?
I'm soak is 6.
Do you have any defensive turns? Now's the
Not
time to
now.
use it.
I used my dodge.
Okay.
It's not this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Damage.
12 damage here isn't actually damage to his physical health. It's damage to his initiative, because that's how Exalted works. Once you have a high initiative, then you can try to go for a killing blow. What I've done is essentially not only planted Jorik right into a place where he can't do any damage because he's an initiative crash, I've made it so that my character now could potentially do a lot of damage in one swing. Again, I'm trying to make him scared.
That's
You are in crash.
really bad news. Okay. Do I get an action?
Yes, you
Oh, I'm so happy. So, like, I stumble obviously from that swipe.
Yeah.
I want to.
You can no longer disengage, by the way.
Yeah,
You're in crash.
I'm in crash. So, I mean, we're still kind of moving. I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna throw out my hand. I'm gonna throw out my other hand, and just say, "Infinite Dirge, it's not me you want. I know who you want. I can take you, Trevor."
That's a social action in combat.
You sure is, buddy?
This
Oh, boy.
is a bribe.
You
You are attempting to you're attempting that. So you're exploding into CI soon.
You're right, never too many socks. They are getting worried, especially because Jorek has decided to sell out one of their allies, or at least make it appear like he's trying to sell one of them out.
I'd like to, yeah, I'd like to
It was defying at one
it
point.
is a bribe, but yeah, his intimacy
Isn't
is
that the
towards,
plus
towards 3 feet.
I don't know. Not ready.
I'm gonna see if I can bump it.
Is this-
John, I don't know what I would roll for that, my friend.
You're not sure what to roll for that.
Just in the sense that socialize.
This is
manipulation.
this is a manipulation socialized.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay. I just want to see if I
His
can.
resolve is currently 7.
Cool, when I get +3. Excellent. I love it. I really
A 7 resolve is extremely high. I want him to work for
For
this.
you guys, are you spending more than 5 votes this time? Have you ever spent more than 5 votes of turn since the
yes,
start?
I have to try to dodge. So,
Are you flaring? Or are you just at
no, I'm pretty sure because a lot of these modes were from
Okay,
last spell, yeah.
so now, Ray,
Mm-hmm.
as you skid into blue sky and manage to make your way up into the balcony, you see 1,000 watchful eyes at a fair distance from you.
I double.
So what I've done here is I've made sure I've checked in with Scott to see whether he's spent a certain amount of essence. The reason why that's important is that his character, if he spends enough essence, has his anima banner flare, which means that essentially a pillar of light appears above his character. It renders stealth impossible, but it does mean that people notice when that shit happens. I want to get these other two into this fight because I know that it's going to be difficult for me to continue this fight with Jorek and Infinite Dirge and to keep it fair. Jorek is not a combat heavy character. He tends to fight from ranged, in which case he's actually quite good, but he can't deal with somebody in his face. I'm hoping that I can start trying to bring the other two people in, even though I did make it clear that escape was going to take a very long time. The other two characters are a bit faster, and no matter what, I have to get them involved somehow.
On my pace.
Look, you're now in your blue sky.
I'm sprinting as fast as I can
Toward
towards,
where?
towards the anima, yeah.
Okay, so then you're diverting? Because you literally just got into the apartment, and then poof, so you're now
Well, I
with
know if I got into the apartment, then I want to scream, Jork's in trouble, and then she's out again. That's what I
Three Fates Shadow looks to you, Val.
I'll be right behind you.
So my NPC, Three Fates Shadow, looks to Val. The reason why I'm doing that, I want Kate to make the decision, not me. I don't want the NPC to be like, okay, well then let's go. And then she feels like she has to. At this point, I still want the players to be in charge of their own destinies. Sometimes it's okay if an NPC is like, I'm being impulsive, especially if that NPC is one that they specifically has to protect. But since Three Fates Shadow is just, at this point, more of a mysterious ally than she is a charge or a ward, then I want to give Kate the option as opposed to just keeping it for myself. Now, the other thing is, I know that Three Fates Shadow is the NPC that Jorek is trying to sell out, so I want to put her on the scene, but I also want to make sure that the players feel like it was their decision to bring her along, even though she probably would have gone anyway, because it's going to make that emotional moment hit just a little harder.
out. Oh my
As
god.
you leap out towards the building, you can hear the whisper of her feet landing as well, and she keeps pace with you
Great.
across the buildings.
I'm rolling it, but I'm spending a
I wish I were plays rare. That's very huge.
The bane of escort missions. Oh yes.
I'm like, my hands out of me, please.
His Tyclave still raised above his head. What? You have her.
I've changed the music. I've changed the music from something that's high octane because I want Jorek to know, or at least feel like, he may have succeeded in slowing the fight down with his social action.
And then he leans his face very close to yours.
Where?
I point in the direction of blue sky and I start kind of slowly moving that way. I'll take you to her now.
Prove it. Let me see in your eyes that you have her.
Look down. Look back up. Three Fates Shadow is with us. We rescued her from a prison. A prison of ice-cold water.
She would never be captured. You're lying.
I'm not lying.
Prove it now. Say it one more time.
Infinite Dirge. We have Three Fates Shadow.
This is a charisma socialized action.
I want him to get one more roll in because I could just erase him at this point. 25 initiative isn't quite enough to one-shot a character entirely, but the chance is there. And if I did hit him with that, I could probably do enough damage that then he would be in a very difficult position already.
Whoa boy. Hello there, boyos. You get all this.
Oh my god.
Your oath has been satisfied.
Yay.
So when I say your oath has been satisfied, what I'm doing is mechanically I removed the dice from his hand to make it so that this was going to be a very difficult thing to convince him, because otherwise he was just going to smash him down. That's not entirely true. I've lied to Scott. I have been misleading to Scott. I do know that a punishment is coming, but I also need him to understand that there's a mechanical disadvantage as well as a meta disadvantage to his breaking his oath. So this is his mechanical disadvantage, because when combat breaks out, I don't really want to take it away from him then. I want him to feel nervous about it now, as opposed to feeling like I just screwed him and beat him off the side of a building and he had any way of preventing it because I took the dice out of his hand. So in this particular case, I'm letting him, because he's not actively in combat right now, and because if I wanted to, I could erase him without any mechanical advantage. Here, in him trying to get out, this is where I'm giving him kind of a feel that at least mechanically he's satisfied his situation. It won't be all, though.
I don't believe it. Regain 5 modes.
So I say his roll failed. I don't believe you.
You can see essence trailing from behind his blade as it slams down. He's attacking you.
Yeah.
Turns.
You can defend. Sure.
Great,
I
I'd love
told
to.
you, your oath has been satisfied.
Ooh,
Excellent.
and I wrote this down, I think.
So I'm reminding him, your oath has been satisfied. I want him to know that the combat I'm not going to fuck with. I fucked with his ability to try to get out of it. Small distinction.
Because it was important for me because I kept not doing it.
I
Remember
got
when I
my
practiced combat?
efficiency.
I learned that thing. But
25 can one-shot a character who doesn't have additional protections. More health levels. I forget how many health levels Jorik had at that time, but it's bad.
20 motes for defense. Plus 2 motes per if you have a dodge charm, and then 2 motes to increase your evasion.
7.
Do you want to increase your vision anymore?
That's all I can do. My pool is 7 modes, so I can spend 6.
Mm.
to
Okay.
so-
Okay.
2, 3. I'm keeping it here so that you can see all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Ooh, who's rolling?
7. So he matches.
Hey, I have a charm that lets me dodge an attack that has successes equal to my evasion.
So then you dodge.
I roll the dice in front of him, and I am having him look to see that I am doing it fairly. Sometimes it's nice to fudge dice. In this particular case, because I know that I can fudge something later on if I absolutely have to, I want him to feel like this combat is real. Because it is real. It's a specific thing that I'm doing here, but I do know that Scott has that charm. But I wanted to make sure that he remembered that he had it, instead of my buying out his success.
Your action.
Yeah.
He loses 2 initiative from an unsuccessful withering attack.
Okay, see, decisive attack.
So
Yeah,
apparently he loses
That's
3 initiative.
Oh,
It
because
was
it's
over
over
11.
Okay.
I,
Yeah, that's
no,
great.
I was just looking at that and I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I've been doing that. But thank you. You remember better than I did.
I reach out towards him and I say, Infinite Dirge. I know that we're enemies right now, but I don't want to have to fight you. I don't want to have to fight anyone.
Okay. Go ahead.
He's trying a social action again. I'm okay with
This is
this.
personal social lines. I'll give you 2 dice for that. Okay. It's another willpower. How much willpower do you left?
2.
Excellent.
Oh, I can't do this. 8.
Your friends will come. I want you on your knees, waiting, or I'm going to put this into your skull. Do you understand me? Do you hear me, Oathbreaker?
Couple tears as I kneel. I would like to roll for a limit, please. That's
Oh
3
my
successes,
god!
baby.
Oh my
Does that
god!
put you on your?
Oh,
7.
holy
Okay.
shit!
Yeah, 7.
But I will. I'll kneel.
She's looking for a high five.
Oh, and there we go. Kate gets high five. That's really the only thing that I care about at this point. If Kate didn't get that high five, I would probably just have to end the game right there.
Limit break. Yeah.
And if you all break at the same time,
I'm at 5, I think.
you can see that his anima is continually pulsing. He's blowing essence, and this is not something that you've seen Jork do very often before.
Going as fast as I can.
Who is it? Where was he?
He was meeting the council.
3/5 shadow glances behind her. Are you following?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Following.
Yeah, first I'm going to go over to the doormat, who was conscious. Gonna untie his hands. Stay here.
Stay.
He nods so hard that his head might fall off. You can't run precisely. You can
Yeah.
hobble along quickly,
Uh,
but your charm won't.
yeah, because I had touch
touches
with blissful release myself, but that'll wear off if I start doing something energetic.
Like I'm gonna need that many dice.
I'm going to say, cart, horse. I like hold up some money. Trying to use my charisma presence to
Yep,
try to summon
she actually does. Liz, as you're running across the rooftops, after about 2 minutes, you can see.
Now I'm starting to make sure that the other players are involved, which means that I'm going to start hopping back and forth. I'm not going to wait to find out what the result of Kate's roll is because it doesn't actually matter right away. I am also relatively sure that she'll succeed. So as she's figuring out her dice and rolling, I am keeping the session moving by popping back from Kate to Elizabeth.
That there are people scattering away from the anima itself. This is going to be considered a separate scene. You may buff. Kate.
7 successes.
A horse just rides right up to the guy. Hey, what's the matter? You need a ride?
See that big pillar of light? Bring me towards it. You can run away the second you deliver me.
Oh shit. Then he looks at the money. Oh shit. Hop on, lady.
I want to see this guy's story.
And he snaps the reins and the horse just starts barreling down the street.
Alright, one dot and run so I can stay on.
Yes, you're correct, everyone. There's initiative is going to go down. Also, Jorik,
Yeah.
their initiative is going to reset.
Oh,
That's
good.
once, I guess.
Yes.
Boy. 5 dice. As I see.
So I'm reducing Dirge's initiative and putting Jorik back into what I call a reset. This is because they've waited the requisite number of rounds and initiatives start to equalize at that point anyway. I don't want to start the fight with Dirge having such a huge advantage because I also know that I'm going to give him allies to go with it. But I also don't want Jorik to stay down there forever, and mechanically it's what I'm supposed to do, so might as well.
Now. Yarp. A horse is considerably faster than a running knight.
Now, I'm taking the third
I will
route.
take that thing down.
So if I see Three Fate Shadow or Ray on my way, I'm going to call them down to.
Eventually, she's going to start running underneath you, so you can see her now riding along the cart.
All right, I will jump down into the cart.
Oh shit.
She's my friend. Keep going.
Hello.
Keep going.
Shut up and drive.
I saw you fight.
Exactly. We're strong. We're gonna take care of this.
Is that true?
Say, I'm pulling my cloak further around my like injuries. Wait, no, it's blasted with ice, so it's not really like
And shards of
I'm
skin.
covered in blood. No, it would melt by now, I think. Not glass.
Okay.
Ice.
So,
We're preparing for more combat. I have to remember that Val is injured. So Kate's character, the player on the right, Val is injured already. And in this game, being injured is already a serious deal. It's not kind of like in D&D where you have X hit points and it's okay because you, as long as you don't drop to 0, your character is still just as able to do things. In this particular case, being injured is a problem, and it also makes it that much more likely that she may end up dying. I do not want to kill Val to punish Jorik.
this is how this is going to go down.
Floor is obviously
You're at
level.
bay.
Yeah.
You're being held at bay. You're resolving your Guile lines too currently because you are cooperating.
Okay, that's super fair.
Well, because I was going to cleave you. And his Fitty Dirge's resolving Guile are +1 currently. When they're going to arrive, we're going to see how many rounds you're going to get. Okay.
Yeah, before you touched it.
Is there any
So this is the hold at bay mechanic in Exalted. Essentially, Exalted has a mechanic which allows a character to hold a weapon to somebody else who is helpless and make it so that you can have a standoff. Because a lot of game mechanics don't actually let you do this. Even if you are quote unquote helpless, you can still dodge with all your might or whatever. This is a way to be able to have that dramatic moment. It's something that I really like about the Exalted rule set, and so I'm going to use it here because I also don't want to threaten Jorik and then just have 2 other people show up and then everything to be fine.
It's been an hour since my friends left.
Is your friends?
Since you 2 left this guy.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you may get 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Jorik, you get
Yeah.
6 rounds at bay once they arrive.
Okay.
If in 6 rounds, now 6 rounds is approximately 30 seconds.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm going to tell you that as you arrive, it's very clear that Infinite Dirge is in a state of very high emotion, and he is on a trigger finger impulse.
Have I seen Three Fate Shadow on my way?
She still remains on the rooftops.
Okay.
She's a night cast. She doesn't show up
That's
next.
fine. That's fine.
Or day cast, I should say.
Ew.
There's a bit of a difference.
Yep.
All right. So, if in the next 30 seconds, and we're doing this live, if in the next 30 seconds you cannot convince Fitty Dirge to stand down, and you instead provoke him, where's my phone?
Oh.
It's somewhere over there, I think. All right, that's fine. Oh, pick another timer. If in 30 seconds you can't talk him down, he will strike. If in 30 seconds you do talk him down, he will potentially let Jork go. If, however, 30 seconds passes and he's still indecisive, Jork can then escape being at bay, and then combat can resume as normal. The initiative track is there. I'm going to ask both of you to roll for initiative now. Or join battle, I should say. While you do that, I'm going to my time.
Yep.
I'm probably spinning these
It was
cards.
in my lap the whole time.
For fun. Last.
Yeah.
So no initiative.
Oh, hey, that phone.
Yeah. I think
It's been a while since I've seen that phone.
Please give me this roll.
9.
9 total.
Yeah.
How much for you?
7.
Did you apply minus 2 penalty to your joint battle roll?
Is that 2 dice?
That's 2 dice, so you must reroll.
Thank you. I've got a post-it here saying I'm at -2, and yet. 2 plus 5.
Yeah, 35 points already.
Okay, so I've just added 2 characters to the fight. I want the players to know that they're there, but I don't want the characters necessarily to know that they're there. But I've put XX and XX to make sure that it's clear that something else is happening.
Trippy, he's back. Oh, shut up.
We're still alive.
Mother.
So the two of you screech up on the card, aware of what's happening. Infinite Dirge currently has his Diclave resting, literally, on Jork's head. The edge having a very slight sliver of blood from small scalp pierce.
Harmonious presence meditation.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
So I have a charm that allows me to attack regardless of initiative order.
Yes.
If I did that, and
I would get to attack.
you would still get to attack. Dang,
Yeah.
sorry, that was right.
You would be able to attack him. You would definitely be able to attack him because you're not attacking from stealth. He would see this happening and then take his action.
No, it's fair. Oh god.
She's trying to get around the hold at bay action, and I don't want to let her, so I don't.
Ready?
Hold up, hold up. Okay, I've got these 2 ready.
No music currently, and I'm all right with that.
I don't want to tell you. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
You're not in crash anymore. I should tell you. Against an abyssal, this is a very good thing.
Do we have a thing?
Abyssals definitely have things if you are crushed.
Didn't want it down.
Abyssals definitely have things if you are crashed. One of the things I should point out is that there isn't a lot of information about Abyssals in 3rd edition Exalted at this point. It's all coming from me. So I'm reassuring him, and at the same time, it's a slight bluff.
I should tell you that he does get to attack. He gets a decisive ambush attack against you. Your defense is set to 0. Your hardness is set to 0. And the attack gains +5 automatic damage.
Now, what if I am also Twilight all of a sudden, and I can disappear? How do
It'd
you
be
like
a
that?
very interesting trick.
I pretend to be.
This is it.
He's making a joke about being a Twilight. The joke is, of course, that they can't have Twilights. At least until full party.
You ready?
No.
It's fine, guys.
Quick.
Oh yeah, John, this has been brought up a few times. Would we be able to use colons instead of dashes to delineate minuses a little better?
Or like the separations, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, instead of
Yeah.
negative.
So it's not negative, then it's a little easier to see.
Thank you. I
so
think
the-
that's a fair enough. That's good enough. Not
Happy birthday, Captain Daff. Good one. You bastard.
Ready?
And is it going in order? Oh god.
Where is she? Where is she? I was promised her.
She's on her way.
Lies. She'll be with you.
She decided not to jump in the cart that I took. I don't control her.
She'll be here very soon. Infinite Dirge.
I believe you.
She'll be here for you.
You have Doric at a disadvantage. You have the upper hand at this moment.
I don't believe you! And he raises his Diclave. And 3 shuriken puncture his arm.
Okay. I don't actually want to take Jorik out like this, and I could. The Hold at Bay rules are there to make sure that the player characters didn't just leap in and do something. But because they failed to convince him, because honestly, there was pretty much no way for them to be able to do so, short of any amazing charm use, an NPC is going to interfere. This is something that I'm doing in order to try to get things, to get the scene where I want it to be, as opposed to just letting it go.
Okay, let me back my cup for now. I haven't done yet.
Initiative has changed. Ready?
I've now made it clear that the 2 X's on the bottom row is not Three-Faced Shadow. Three-Faced Shadow has now entered the fight, and I've brought Dirge back down again a little bit. He still has the advantage over the rest of the people in this fight, but I didn't want him to have that huge an advantage. I also now have made it very clear that there are 2 other people involved in this fight who are not what they know.
You're not holding anymore?
No.
Okay.
You guys made it 3 seconds. Probably good idea for you to keep quiet in this moment, but... Round. 5 modes, everyone.
Oh god. Oh god. I need these so badly.
Dirge roars.
Thunderclap rush.
Okay. Interrupt.
All right, so I'm moving a single range band. So no, actually, before I do this, can I use this to defend other?
A thunderclap rush.
Yeah. So basically, I'm leaping ahead in the initiative track to throw myself in front of Jorik in a contested
You can
stance.
do it by thunderclap rushing Jorik.
Okay, I don't want to attack him.
Well,
Is
you won't
that
take damage, but you're going to knock him prone.
cool? That's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Well, I want to go, and I want to just shoulder check him out of the way and stand between him and Dirge.
Okay.
That sounded really cool.
Thanks.
Does she get any points of
Oh,
stuff?
I love it.
Thunderclap roar!
Keep screaming as you go.
So Jorik goes sprawling
Oh,
as you
sure.
manage to throw your way in.
He hasn't just
Dirge's
stuck
decisive attack is coming at you.
Yeah. So
I don't want to take that cool moment away from Liz. She's obviously thought of a very cool idea for this, and I don't necessarily want to let her get directly in the way of an attack that was technically something that happened in a hold at bay. So instead, I just let her take the hit, which is fine. Ray, as a character in this particular game, is somebody who can essentially blow through a lot of power very quickly to take one person out, but she's not very good at multiple combatants. And there are multiple combatants here. So I have to be careful because she could potentially take out Infinite Dirge by herself if she got lucky.
I'm probably gonna want to do some shit. Oh boy. So let's.
I'm gonna buy you something nice.
No, thank you so much. Is it nice?
Thank you.
Next in the initiative order is going to be Through Shadow, and after that, Val. Val, you should prep your action
Yep.
now.
Okay, so my parry is at 9.
Okay. What base, or did you just spend a bunch
I
of
just
money
spent a bunch
for
of months for that.
You oh, dude. That's
Take a thing.
I mean, I'm gonna take a full second if it's that.
Full to Ray, 2.5 seconds for Ray, and a half.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, sorry, darn.
Well,
So it's been brought up, but of course, as you shoulder check, I hear like all of my bones inside my chest is crunch. I'm like, ah, it's falling.
All right, here comes the attack. Ready? 4, 5, 6. You're at 9.
Mm-hmm.
7, 8. Not enough.
So I go like this with my hands, and like I can bleed in right between, and I go. "Ah!"
Nice.
Shit.
3 Fate Shadow hides. And to you. Okay.
Three Fate Shadow hides. There's a reason for this. First, remember she's the target, and I don't want everybody to just focus on her. The second is she's an NPC, and I don't want the NPC to overshadow the PCs in a fight. She has to be powerful, otherwise she wouldn't be able to run with this crew. But I also don't want them to start relying on her to be an equal participant in fights. So she hides. Later on, the fact that she hides gets me out of a jam.
In that case, I'm gonna head into. No, he's wrong. I'm going to Empowering Show. I'm going to give Ray a bonus to, would it be Strength Brawl that you use to attack?
Dex roll.
It's Dex roll
Dex
to
Brawl?
attack.
Okay, so I'm giving you basically 1 to Dex, 1 to Brawl. Yeah.
Strength is her damage. Dexterity is
Okay,
hit.
great.
1 to Dex, 1 to Brawl.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
For the
yeah.
round, for your next round.
Okay.
Get him right. Get him right!
There we go. Yeah, he's
Can't do, bitch! And then we fist bump, and then it's great.
Let's go.
An arrow from a far distance away comes screaming towards Jorik.
I chose an archer because Jorik is an archer, and they haven't really faced a whole lot of archers at this point, so I wanted him to feel a little bit special in that, and I also wanted to give him the opportunity to try to do some counter-archering. We'll see how that works.
Am I still defending this?
No.
Oh.
What's this?
No, you knocked him aside. This is only withering attack that makes you feel any better.
It doesn't.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're prone, so you're actually less. Oh,
Sorry, bro.
not actually more. Prone gives you an advantage to this, I believe.
Should be everything else.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a lot of things on this sheet.
Eric went to, because Brawl is my supernal, I believe I have access to that. Already, it's just I've used a lot of willpower.
Alright, well, in the interest of keeping it going for now, we're going to assume that it hits those no special successes.
Yeah, it's
Shoot,
fine.
3, 4, 5. Jorik is in crash again.
Ah, no. Shit.
Jorik,
Yeah.
your action.
I want to try to get out of crash. Seeing that like Ray has done such a great service for me, I'm gonna.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I'm gonna. I need to rise from prone. I don't know if that's a action.
No, it's your movement for the turn.
Awesome. Then I'm gonna take my combat action. I'm gonna rise from prone. I'm gonna notch an arrow, and I'm gonna fire over Ray's shoulder. I figured I didn't.
So Scott, as an archer, ignores the other archer and decides to focus on Fitty Dirge instead. This is a tactical error on the player's part. I'm going to take advantage of that because I'm already trying to punish him.
No one steals from me.
Yeah.
The arrow flies. Go for it.
Thank you.
Was that the heartstring saying that?
Yeah.
Sexy.
I know, eh? Oh, yeah. +2 because Ray's my friend. -1.
On my website.
Yeah, I've used it before. I'm only down to 3 willpower. Didn't want to use it in this situation. But it is boss, and it's fuck.
His evasion's 2.
Okay. May I have the?
Sure may.
Ugh.
There's his cast mark. the bleeding version of a Eclipse is starting to
Yeah.
glow.
I'm at. I think we've been slightly off by a touch on our anima levels. I'm at burning.
How many? Okay, well, then that's 5 threshold. Go ahead.
It's 10. Can I ask what his soak is?
Infinite Dirge's soak is currently 15. Everything you have your overwhelming. After this, I'm going to remind everybody to regain 5 modes, so this will be round.
That's not a thing. That's 3.
Yes. Well, that takes you out of crash.
Oh!
Round. Another arrow comes flying out of the distance. This one is going towards Ray.
Your dex and
Your
roll are
ev-
still boosted until my
Your,
turn.
yes, this is your evasion.
Which is
Excuse me?
which is 5.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
So, your soak, please.
My soak is 15. And I also have a beautiful new charm.
Okay.
So,
Oh, nice.
what are you rolling for damage before the soak?
Before soak, 23.
Okay, so half of that is rounded up is 12, and I have a limit of stamina, so I'm paying 1 initiative, so I'm down to 8, and I'm going to regain my limit of stamina, 5 motes. It's called Essence Gathering Temper,
Yep.
and it is a tiny new charm, and it's beautiful.
So I'm still rolling 8 damage here.
Now I'm going to be doing it.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder.
Let's do...
Infinite Dirge, you son of a gun.
Sorry, guys.
I'm trying to project calm here. I see that the players are jittery, and I want them to feel like the excitement of this fight. But if I get excited too, if I start getting jittery, then it's going to start making people make mistakes, and it's also going to start making it feel like I'm losing control. So I have to keep it down. I have to let this go through. My excitement can come through later, but right now, when I'm running combat, I've got to be kind of cool and, I mean, yeah.
Please remove 5 of those.
Yep.
And now have at it.
6 damage.
Wait,
That rolled.
Hell in a handbasket!
super good. Oh, Mademoiselle or Monsieur, sorry.
Alright, we move on to Val. Or sorry, Through Fate Shadow. Currently hidden, unable to be seen. Val.
Just want to double check that my empowering shout will still count until her next turn. Otherwise, that sucks.
Sorry, that kind of sucked.
Until a character gains it until their next turn, so until your next turn, you'll have
Yeah,
it.
she hasn't acted this turn.
Yeah, it's
Well,
fine.
she's, done some defense stuff. but she's acted this turn.
How far away do those arrows seem to be coming from? Like
They're,
really
at,
far?
they're in medium range. But you currently can't see the shooter.
Yeah. And
Kate is actually caring about this character that has 22 initiative. We'll see what she does with it.
the only other combatant in sight is Infinite
Is
Dirge.
Infinite Dirge.
And Ray is in his face. Jorik has moved away.
No,
still
no,
close by.
Jorik is still at close range.
Okay. I'm gonna move in towards Infinite Dirge and try to.
But she doesn't go after the 22 initiative. Another tactical error on the part of the players. Letting an enemy combatant get high in initiative is very, very dangerous if you're not trying to counteract them by attacking them yourself to lower their initiative. But they see a threat and they want to take him out. They're focusing one down and they're going to end up paying a price.
Withering attack him. That's the opposite one. Sorry. That's my fault.
Hey,
Whoops.
I'll pay for things once. Get on.
Okay, so I'm gonna move towards him and try to sweep one of my spear up in his face, trying to set him off balance.
Okay, let's go go for it.
Which will offset the -2 for my damage. So that's.
Good.
Gotta remember
And I'm going to spend some
defense.
motes to increase this.
It's +1, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be.
I'll give you the stun for your defensive Jorik, by the way. I didn't mention that way. Yeah.
Great. I'm now at bonfire.
The Thousand Eyes are joined by the Asclepius.
Awesome. Let's get a fist up in his boots.
So, and I spent 3 motes, which means I got 3 more dice. Yay! Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus I reroll my 1s.
Okay. Harry is currently at 11.
10, 11. Plus 1 automatic success.
That puts you at 12.
So she's going to hit, which is just fine with me.
Yes. So that's 12. So that's 1 threshold of
One
success.
threshold success.
Okay.
His soak is currently 15.
Okay, so that's. There's 1. I have 2 dice. Must increase my damage.
Clouds are
My
starting to
minimum
rush overhead.
is 4, so I'm just going to roll the 4 minimum.
That's not good.
Keep in mind he's at a -1 onslaught penalty from Doric's attack. Should you said it was this round, didn't you?
Oh, yep. So
Either way, I'm still only rolling my minimum.
Okay, 4. Cool.
Can you botch damage?
No, you can't watch damage.
No success.
Okay, but you still will gain initiative.
Yay, successful attack.
We'll move to Ray.
My initiative.
Not 3 days?
She's
She's doing something else?
Can't see her.
Okay, so.
Something that's clouds, right?
Alright, so as I snarl from taking that arrow hit, I turn back, focus my attention on Biddy Dirge, and I rush him and try to shoulder check him into the opposite wall.
Okay. It's 2 extra dice. Go
Thank
for
you.
it.
Still focusing Infinite Dirge.
You got basically +2 to your attack roll.
Right.
3 up, 3 down. And there's a Chaos Cat in the background.
Son of a-
Do we miss the Chaos Cats? I sometimes miss the Chaos Cats. I don't really, but I do. I don't, but I do. I actually miss having the cats around. I don't miss the problems that they cause and the distractions.
And -2 on penalty, which I'm turning over by the way. Ooh. Wow,
Do
look
you
at
carry
that.
over the entire or
No,
just
just
one
mine.
that you
Oh
had?
my god, look at that.
Yeah, 1006s.
1, 2, wow, 3. No, that's not gonna be.
Your attack is not successful.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
Round 5 modes, everyone.
So Liz says that really sucked. Clock that. Liz doesn't like to fail at the thing that her character is supposed to do best. Nobody likes that. Everybody sort of wants in the back of their minds to be like the super coolest person. But this is the second round, and she hasn't really had a chance to do a whole lot of damage to Dirge. So I take a note of it. There's not much that I can do directly to sort of, I could start fudging dice, but everybody has to recognize that, you don't always get to be successful, even if it's something that you're supposedly good at. So, for now, we move on.
Does that mean I don't cautiously miss? Do I cautiously miss?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Definitely on the side. So you
gotcha.
lose,
Man, sometimes I roll so well, and when it really counts, when you like to roll well.
Mm-hmm.
The story of my life.
Another arrow.
But like, she's not horrifically pissed or anything. It is still something that I'm clocking.
This one is headed towards right. Your vision.
Yep. So I missed Vinny Dirge, so I kind of hit the wall and look back just in time to see an arrow. I'm going to attempt to hop off the wall and kind of go over the arrow.
Back over. All right, give me 1 extra defense for that. What's your vision?
So that means it would be 6, unless I got it, which I plan to. 7, 8, 9. Who's attacking me? It's one of the
Let's see. It's the XX, the 22 XX.
10.
Okay, still a hit. No threshold successes. You don't have any sick-ass dodge terms to do this, do you?
No, my soak is 15.
Yeah, that's fine.
And how much are you rolling?
I'm rolling 6 dice.
Okey-dokey. Let's go ahead and.
I should warn you that she has an overwhelming, so there's no real reason to reduce.
It's an overwhelm. There's no
minimum
real
10.
reason. Is there
Well, there's a reason for you
some
to do
reason?
like regaining essence if you wish, but
I don't think I can.
I think you have to reset that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
reset.
reset.
Nope. I'm gonna crash, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Nice knowing you.
Oh boy.
3.
Okay, so 3. I've just put her into crash. The players are now in a very difficult situation. It's bad, and that's okay. I want it to be bad, and it hasn't been bad for them a whole lot. The thing that I'm a little worried about right now is if you look,
Let's have a gun.
I now have a character who has an initiative of 31. 31 is somebody who can potentially one-shot somebody with a reasonable chance of success if they hit.
Die.
Person's got so much initiative.
Val hits on
They can
crash.
murder a thief.
Oh,
Ray
crap.
hits
I'm
on.
sorry, Ray hits on crash. Not Val.
Okay,
Val hits
crash,
six.
how's it going?
Why do I keep doing that? Anyway, Dirge is next. Dirge, seeing Ray getting knocked back by this arrow, walks over and just slams his foot towards Jorik's midsection.
Jarek! Is this withering or decisive?
This is withering attack.
Alright, you're on your own, bud.
So I'm going to keep Dirge in the fight, but I'm not actually making him do something specifically horrible. I'm knocking Jorik back. What I'm hoping at this point is that the player characters may surrender because they're in such a poor situation. I should have realized at this time that maybe that was not going to happen.
2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he misses.
I'm just like rolling
But he misses, so I'm okay with
and
that.
tumbling on the ground.
So that's after Dirge is going to be Val.
Val,
Val,
no,
Val.
go in it dirt again.
Yeah.
Whoa. Kick his ass, Val.
Yeah.
After Val, Ray, ready your action.
Gonna use me?
Oh, you're going to be next after this. Yes.
Sure.
Well, Jorik too, but no, whatever.
Well, you know, you know.
It's alright.
Okay.
It's hard for me to see the shit from here.
I'm gonna flip the spear over and jab sort of just to the side of his head to try to make him dodge out of the way.
Okay,
Again, trying to set him off the feet.
Jorik, what are you going to do? He still has a -1 onslaught penalty. I should plan.
Okay, so that will be. You will take it. Do you want -1 into account, right?
I will take his
Into
+1
the
to his defense.
I'm trying to think of a magical.
Defense is 6, no 5 currently because the onslaught.
9 successes.
That's 3 threshold.
3 thresholds.
So 15.
So 15. So 3.
Jorik.
I'd like to take full defense, but I don't think that's. I need to get out of that. I
You
need to
need
get out
to
of the hole. If he's being attacked, I'm gonna do the same.
Listen to me. Aim for his heart.
You and me.
That person who's talking to him, that's his bow. His bow is a thing for him.
Yeah. I aim for his heart. He's gonna. What's the thing? Doesn't work compromise. Yeah.
1 success. So that's.
Rubik Wall brings up a really good point. Getting PCs to surrender is hard. It requires an extremely clear benefit to surrendering. Few enemies even communicate that they will not simply execute surrendered foes. That's because, in general, people look at NPCs who they're in combat with as evil. And that's not always necessarily the case, that they're pure chaotic evil in the D&D sense, that, they would never take surrender because they delight in destroying somebody. But it's something that you can cultivate with your players if you're strong. Thing is, I haven't with this group. This group has a very specific goal: get Three Fates Shadow back, and apparently, I haven't really made it clear to them that if they surrender and give her up, they'll stop attacking them for now. But
2 points for me, 1 for him.
One success is still not no success.
We got a lot of fun tonight, but this was a new laughing
That, that is true. Here we go. Anything else exciting? Can I give him a -1 defense?
Sure.
Why is it?
That would put him at -3 currently for his defense, so his defense is currently 0.
Yes, you. Let's crash him. Boyos. That's not happening. What? Actually. 5, 6, 7. Here.
That's 7 threshold successes. Go ahead and roll. His is 15. Ray.
All right, so I'm going to now keep low, rushing at Dirge. I can see that Val has knocked him successfully off his balance.
Yes.
Yes, knocked him successfully off his balance.
And this
I'm
arrow is coming at him, and that's also going to be
fantastic. So keeping low, I want to run at his legs now and try to knock him out from under him.
Yep. 2 extra.
Thank you.
0
Nothing to
successes.
say, but it's a successful attack, so
That's a successful attack.
He's at -3 on slot.
Okay. His defense is currently.
you'll notice that I have the second X at 6. It's a backup character that I'm not necessarily intending to use.
Just before you answer, because I don't want to be like, oh, too bad. -3, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's currently 8.
Should I got it? Can I add?
You'll have to reroll. That rolls.
All right, what do we think? What do we think, guys?
yes. What? Yes.
Yeah,
we got
alright.
it.
Yeah, I don't think that was done. Okay, good. That's fine. All right.
Checks in.
I like it. Yeah.
Of course she does.
Ooh, actually, can I keep this one? No.
I was curious.
I think they're both XXs are the other 2 abyssals.
Yeah, we think so. Alvor? Yes.
Trying to kill off his friend. What? He just has
I was
Benny.
just about to say, he has terrible aim. You know.
Ooh, 2-0.
12.
12 successes. Well, that's going to hit him. I mean, that's 4 threshold, so go ahead. So is 15.
Okay.
Now, Ray's going to get out of Crash here, which is good, because I still want the players to feel like they're okay if they're not going to surrender. But I know that I've got that 31, and that 31 could take out anybody on the field.
Is there?
Yes.
Long past, ladies and gentlemen.
It's
Yeah,
almost
we
like
got
that's what I'm
long
supposed to do. Gonna do ferocious jab, so we're gonna add 3 to that. Damage, that's cool. And then we're going to Yay! That's it. I guess.
That's beautiful.
Holy fuck, why?
No successes.
Why?
Oh, you're not out of Crash yet, but you're close.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad.
Round. 5
Oh.
minutes.
Just when you try to be.
I'm nervous, and I can see it now. I'm trying to do my best to avoid it, but I also know that I'm sitting on a 31 initiative character who's about to act.
Badass.
And then leaping from a horse off to the side of the building, off the side of the alley that you're fighting in currently, running through the dust. Not today! And Summer Blaze.
There's my backup character. See, I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. Then I realized that I have a backup character that I could bring in either for the bad guys or the good guys by setting up that expectation of a hidden combatant, so they know that someone's there. And this is what I'd use. It kind of crystallizes, the plan crystallizes for me. I'm going to bring in an ally that they have who is not terribly powerful, but somebody who is, powerful enough that it might turn the tide of this battle.
Falls down onto the ground, kicking herself up as she moves, her double dice drawn, rushing towards Dirge.
That sounds like it's up to me. And if you give yourself stunts.
I can give myself stunts.
I'm just trying to be better about yourself and forget about something. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. Rah, 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 rah.
Oh, that thing that NPC did? Oh, that was cool. That
No.
villain? That wasn't very cool.
She takes one look at Ray, one look at Dirge, and then she looks at Jorik, and she just goes as quickly as she can, trying to get between you and Infinite Dirge. Her swords just flash. She turns, points to him, and says, "You know not what you do against one who can have the moon obscure nothing, and his greatness shines." And she lifts her Daiklave, and the arrow flies.
This is the punishment. I'm going to let the dice fall, but I'm targeting, instead of one of the PCs and potentially eliminating one instantly, the price that they pay for not paying attention to the archer and for focusing down Infinite Dirge, who is somebody who is more defensive in nature in terms of his ability to continue to fight, means that they're going to lose an NPC potentially. So we'll see how the dice fall.
I swear
Oh, I didn't let this happen.
to the unconquered sun.
I didn't let trade for some slaves.
Oh my god.
It makes me
Oh my
Okay,
god.
it is a successful hit against Summer Blaze.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Wham! The decisive intelligence.
Yeah, of course. I was like, okay, who's it gonna kill?
Ouch. Yeah, that's fine.
6. I'm letting the dice fall, guys.
Yeah, sure, buddy. Oh, 31 of them.
Jarek, you're joining my circus school after this.
Yeah, circus school of crying.
Yeah.
Tears of pain.
Oh my god.
And the arrow embeds itself into her skull. And as she's pointing with her diclave, it falls from her hand, the other one sticking itself straight up and down into the dirt. And she collapses, skidding along the ground until she comes to rest at Jorik's feet. Infinite Dirge takes a disengage action.
I will not be opposing that roll. I don't know if anyone else wants to. Just gonna drop down.
I'm gonna.
You see one more arrow fly, but it's high
Can
and off to the right.
I wanna monkey leap up to the roof and see if I can see the archer.
Can I?
Now Liz is paying attention to the archer, but I have no interest in making sure that they can deal with the archer at this point. What's more important is that they have an ally who's dead. Revenge is not something that I really care about because the person who has killed them is essentially an almost nameless NPC. An NPC that they haven't really dealt with personally. Fitty Dirge or Infinite Dirge is the one who they've really dealt with, and that's the one who's disengaging. Remember that I said at the beginning, I do not want him to fall in this session. And now that I've blown my big loaded dice here, I have to make sure that he gets away. So he's taking a disengage. Now they're focused on the archer, but I already have somebody who's ready to take the archer out. Three Fates Shadow.
Make an additional attack out of initiative order before he disengages.
Sure. Well, an additional attack.
Flow's a little awkward. Your ally enters as a surprise benefit of your side and then gets shot in the head. Yep. It was not the most graceful of executions, but at the same time, it was either that or I was going to fire at one of the PCs, and I could have killed them. Straight up. Val almost certainly would have died. She already had health levels of damage, and I don't remember how many extra health levels Jorik had, so I probably could have killed him too. And there was a solid chance that I would have killed Ray. I don't like killing PCs. I don't like killing PCs because it means that their stories end. And if they end, I want them to end well. This would not have been a good death. Even though Jorik had broken an oath, this wouldn't have got the reaction that I want. So it's Summer Blaze who takes the hit.
That's how.
Can you pause some technique?
That should have been done on your action.
Well, this happened before my action.
Yeah. So,
so
but
he
he's
goes first.
disengaging.
Okay.
You have to.
Have done it
Well,
last.
you can try to
round.
counter disengage, so you can attempt to attack him.
Yeah, Dex Athletics, I think, against his Dex advantage. Huh, well, the thing from before.
Ray has already determined, as well as Jorik, that they are not contesting. It's up to you. You roll Dex Athletics against his. Remember that you are minus 2 penalty currently.
I'm reminding her of her wound penalties as a subtle sort of way to try to make sure that she doesn't go after him, because he could still potentially do a lot of damage to her, and I don't want this fight to continue. I want them to focus on what they've just lost.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Dex
Okay.
athletics.
But she goes ahead and does it anyway.
He's also. Does he have anything? Or no,
He has no
that's
damage.
not- No penalties. No successes.
2 successes.
So,
Infinite Dirge moves to medium range. Or short range now, and he's going.
so on my initiative, I'm going to rush towards Summer Blaze. Check her vitals. Anything?
She's on last breath. You can't save her.
Not at all.
No, this was a. She took 14 damage from the attack.
Okay.
Last Breath is not something that's an exalted thing. If you are familiar at all with LARP Season 2, Last Breath is a construct which essentially says that a character is dying and might be able to get a few words out, but that there's nothing that can be done to save them. I do this because otherwise I would have had to have Summer Blaze just completely die right away. Kate is playing a healer, and one of the hardest things to do to somebody who's playing a healer is to take a character away from them, to essentially say, you can't help this person. Kate takes it well, which I appreciate. It's part of her generosity as a player, but it is something that I have to make sure is clear and set expectations right from the start. You can't do this, as opposed to, okay, well, you have to roll really, really high, because I don't want her to make her feel like she isn't a good enough healer that she couldn't save Summer Blaze. I need it to be nobody could have saved Summer Blaze, no matter how good a healer she was.
Slicing treatment methodology, none of that. I'm like, no.
Oh, this, I know it's not the time, but this time is the minute.
For you?
For you?
Me?
You're unable to help.
Yes.
I'm so
Yeah?
sorry.
It's Jorik who's suffering here, not you.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was me. I was thinking it was.
And you can't
her
help by
dog.
bringing her back. So yes, roll it.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, I mean, that's interesting that someone who, I'm just going to say that someone who's been on battlefields and seen people take lethal damage, that to be triggered by something like that, but because it's someone personal, that's cool. But we'll talk about whether I'm going to be
It
triggered.
wouldn't be
every
normally
time.
anything. It's Dork at this point.
Yeah, cool.
I'm like,
No success.
Oh.
So my botch is like actually technically botch. So usual botch limit.
Okay.
So my bad success is containment.
yeah,
She just lifts up, and you're like there, like ready to help, and you can see that there's just light fading from behind her eyes, and she looks at Dork.
if her die plate is within reach, I want to just grasp it and drag it towards me and kind of place it gently in my hand.
Leave. I understand.
Blaze, you didn't have to. You didn't have to. How are you here? You didn't have to do this for me, for anyone.
It's the slights.
He came for us.
You did.
And you saved us.
You're a hero, Summer Blaze.
But she can't hear you.
So, Riverquall is correct. The flow is a bit awkward. At the same time, the players are choosing to take it and run with it, which means that if I have made an error, it's working in my favor. They're choosing to trigger this as you're a hero in that. I mean, I think that they also are trying to make her feel better in her last moments of life, but she basically came in and prevented any of them from dying, and I think they know that. So there's a certain benefit to what's happened here.
As you head towards the archer,
Yeah.
you can see finally Question standing there, and just as you see Three Fates' shadow embed one of her kunai into his neck and then yank forward, spilling the rest of his throat out forward, and she just takes his head and cracks it back as hard as she can, kicking him in the back and then just dropping the head.
Three Fates' shadow takes out the archer. Part of this is a story thing. She's getting back at her old circle. But part of this is also because I do not want them to have to worry about mourning right now because there's another combatant around. I want them to feel like the combat is over. It's a bit sloppy because it's taking a little bit of agency away from the PCs, but they made too many tactical errors this battle. And I can't easily give them the revenge that they would seek. So instead, I give them a partial amount. Dirge is still the key focus, and so they'll be able to revenge themselves on him, but not there.
Okay, so I'm going back down. Is she?
Yeah. What if we make it back to the Mads? At least back to Ember.
Ember is Summer Blaze's brother, romantically involved with Liz, the player in the center, and they're immediately thinking of him. That means that I've done some part of my job correctly. They care about this character, but they also care about the ramifications of this character and the other characters extended. That's gratifying to me, and I'm happy, but at the same time, I now know that they immediately think of him, so that scene has to be seen.
I'm gonna see if we can't send her back home. Under the guise that she died fighting for the Wild Hunt. She deserves to be buried with honors.
Players are getting teary-eyed. So this is something that I've encountered in games. It is simultaneously one of the most gratifying things that you can do as a storyteller, and it's also something that you have to be very careful with. It's only a game. I really enjoy when a player can get themselves to an emotional state that they can express themselves that way and that there is a physical sign to it. It's not like I enjoy making people cry. It's that I enjoy making people care enough that they feel emotional about these sorts of things. Sometimes that emotion is somebody who is performing and wants to show how well they're performing it. And sometimes it's a little bit of bleed, and sometimes it's both. In the end, it doesn't really matter, not for my purposes, other than I'd prefer that a player just doesn't start crying at the drop of a hat because they know how to bring tears on cue. But since the players haven't done this before, I feel like it's something that I have, that I can trust is their emotional investment into the game. But if you have somebody who is that emotionally invested at that point, you have to make sure that you don't let the bleed go too far, and you have to also check to make sure that that player isn't going to resent you for making them feel sad. So some delicacy is called for at this point.
We'll get her back. We'll get her back there.
You see Three Fates' shadow now running down the road quickly.
They want to bring Summer Blaze's body back. I know that this is pretty much going to be impossible based on the setup that I've created in the universe, but also there's something else that I'd prefer that they do. Kate is a Zenith cast, and Zenith have the ability to commit a corpse to also learn what their most their deepest desires or intimacies are. Intimacies being a mechanic in this game to show what they care about the most. It's also a way for them to prevent the corpse from rising as a hungry ghost, and they have just been fighting abyssals, so I know that this is something that would probably be a good thing for them to prevent. But mostly, I want to give her the chance to use this ability and also inject a little bit of extra emotion into this scene.
Pulling her cloak around her so that she's concealing the weapon she's carrying, but still as if she is ready to fight at any second here.
They take the initiative away to show that combat is
Summer Blaze
done.
would want to return home.
So I'll talk to Ember.
I wasn't talking about that home. And I go and I hug Jorik.
He's just kind of like limp in your arms. Nope. Just kind of like.
So Scott made a joke, specifically a limp in your arms, a sexual innuendo joke, which means that either he's using humor to try to avoid feeling what he's feeling, or he's showing that he's okay with what's happening. People don't tend to make jokes like that unless they're very bitter jokes if they're okay. So Scott's okay, and the others still kind of like smiled or snickered. So I know that we're still on the good side of emotion right now.
Defeated.
She stops. She looks at Val, walks forward, and she just extends a hand, lays it on your shoulder. And then she whispers something into your ear. You must commit her now. She was killed by one of us.
Is that so?
Do it.
I'm not being very subtle here, but at least there's an in-game reason for it.
Yikes.
Thank you for telling me that. Thank God I have enough notes.
I doubt she says that out loud.
No. That's Kate.
So Kate has also made a joke. Again, that's a good sign.
I got it.
No, that's the wrong quantity. Sorry.
I think she only needs one mote.
No, what? Huh? Oh, it's only one note. Never mind. Okay. Whew.
Oh, there you go. I was right.
Heartstring is just murmuring, just gently.
Heartstring could also be murmuring to Jorek, "You idiot, why didn't you try to take out the archer?" But I'm not going to rub salt into that wound.
Trying to fill your head with white noise.
You notice that my voice is cracking. This is an issue that I've had to worry about my entire life. But it's also something to indicate I am also emotionally charged at this moment. And it's tough sometimes. I mean, I have to make sure that I get myself into a position so that I can have characters react to that as well, but their energy is affecting me, and I have to be careful about that bleed as well. If I lose it at the table, then everybody loses it at the table.
Sort of, I push
Music's also kind of helping.
Ray away slightly.
Although at the time I had never played Halo. So, in fact, when I hear this music, which is from the Halo 2 soundtrack, I associate it more with Exaltwitch than anything else because I hadn't played the video game at the time.
I say, can you give me just 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
Jorek,
Yes.
I'm going to have to commit her. But it can wait a minute.
Why?
She was killed by one of his kind.
I'm not going to say I don't understand the danger of what could happen.
Would she come back like you, Three-Fade Shadow? No.
No. She may roam restless
She doesn't deserve that.
if they try.
Summer Blaze is dragon-blooded, and dragon-bloods don't become abyssals. Solars become abyssals. So, no, she doesn't get to come back as super cool. That's the other thing. I don't want to give any kind of false hope that she might come back as somebody they're like, okay, well, you might be dead, but at least you're still our friend. So I'm shutting that down right away.
All right.
Take the time you need. I will guard you.
Thank you.
And she goes up to the rooftops.
Oh, I forgot about an object. Thank you, Erwin. That would be weird. Academic things. Yeah, that makes sense.
I forgot how well that our microphones at the time picked up whispers. While I was playing, I wasn't sure. Now I can hear it, and it's interesting to see the players kind of have that back and forth. Of course, now the players are mic'd with lavaliers, so it's a little different.
I'll step away from Summer Blaze's body, and I'll just... Actually, I'll
You'll notice that the tension has gone out, but the emotion is setting in. They're not fidgeting anymore. Scott's not pulling at his rings or at his watch, but he is rubbing at his eyes, and the other two are in the same boat. So we've successfully transitioned away from tension, and now the release of that tension is important for the players. It does no good to build up tension and then to have that spring coil and coil and coil, and then you don't let it loose. Here we have to let it loose. We have to let the players feel this. It's not the time to start bringing in another combatant and having them run through that all over again. It's not the time for them to bring forward like a wacky character. Right now, it's important to let that energy dissipate. And so we're letting them have that moment here.
I'll cross her arms, I guess, over her chest, make sure she has her die claves. Sort of tuck her hair behind her ear. Stand up, grab the heartstring, and just step away. Do it. get this done.
I'm gonna commit her body and transfer any of the positive. I'm probably gonna transfer one of the intimacies into one of her dive cliffs. And if DM will allow me to spend an extra mote, if I want to put two
You won't have to
intimacies
split
into
that. You don't have to spend the extra
dive
mote.
cliffs.
You can split it without that.
So she's making an offer here. Can I split it among two different objects? The rules don't say. I'm just making the choice, and I don't want her to feel like she has to spend extra to let this cool role-playing moment happen. So I let it go. At this point now is not the time to also be like, well, let me check the rules to see if that's okay. Like, screw it. Just make the call. Don't interrupt the emotional moment.
Okay, thank you.
The
I don't
thing is,
care.
they go as a set.
And yes, I'm aware that I'm interrupting the emotional moment now in front of you, but that's the purpose of this stream.
You can consider them as one object.
Okay, because I was thinking of like one intimacy in each sort of thing. But we'll see. We'll talk about it. What are her intimacies?
Summer Blaze has 3 defining intimacies.
Yeah.
This is the part where I need that emotional payoff to occur. These intimacies have to be good enough. And if I didn't have good enough intimacies, I would have changed them on the fly.
I will follow my brother into the dark.
Mm-hmm.
I will be ready for whatever comes for me.
Mm-hmm.
I will prove to the world that the Solar Exalted are not anathema.
3 defining intimacies. The first one, I will follow my brother into the dark, ties directly to Liz because her character is emotionally and romantically involved with her brother, and he's an ally to the other two as well. It's important to tie her back to him because otherwise we don't want we want the moment where they go back to Ember and tell him of his sister's death. We want that moment to still connect and connect hard. The second, I will be ready for whatever comes for me. That's a kind of a standard intimacy to let it know that I'm not trying to just be emotionally manipulative and saying like the hardest possible things to them. That's a standard intimacy that somebody can have. But it also is a little bit of a punch because clearly she wasn't ready for the arrow that got embedded into her head. And then the last intimacy, I will prove to the world that the Solar Exalted are not anathema, is an intimacy that was directly caused by the players. That is that was something that they specifically made because when they first encountered her, she was trying to stop the Solar Exalted. And so it shows that they had such an effect on her life that it caused a defining intimacy in her. And that's going to affect all of them.
We did that.
Oh boy, there it goes.
Oh, here we go.
And Scott says, you did that. And then Liz says, oh boy, there it goes. And then tears fall. These are okay tears to have, but I have to be careful. Tears are great, but we're at an edge here and we want to make sure that we don't push too far over.
Oh,
And we'll take a break here.
I was doing so well.
So we take a break.
I was doing so well. I'm sorry, Cade. Oh.
Not anathema. I'm going, Liz. I promise.
Okay.
Period.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh.
Bye. What?
I'm also gonna let that slide because it's your birthday, Captain Daft. Don't think for a second that I've missed that.
Captain Daft's comment there was not ready enough for that arrow, Summer. But, that's fine. One step closer, and we're about to break.
What? I clearly missed something.
Yeah, I don't know what it's on.
I missed it.
I will be ready for whatever comes for me.
Oh, god damn it. Captain Daff. That's pretty, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I guess she wouldn't necessarily have known that there were other combatants
Wow.
at that moment, but like jumping in there, just given those intimacies as well, just like and protect someone who's not there, prove something to the people who are there. Like it's crazy. It's wow.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's definitely not an easy thing to do when you have players who are who get emotionally invested in the game and it takes something away from them in that moment, but they're handling it. And it's okay that we had to take a break at that point. I mean, it's also the midpoint of the game, so it would make sense. But now I know that I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish this session. I have punished Jorek. I punished him mechanically once, but the reality is that I've also made sure that he experienced a loss that he cared about. Sure, losing the Council of Nine is something that's going to trouble him professionally, but it isn't something that's going to trouble Scott or his character emotionally. This will. And while I wasn't necessarily like, well, I'm going to kill a character because that's what needed to be done, I saw the opportunity. I had a mechanical reason to do it. And it did also get me out of the jam of not wanting to kill one of my player characters. So I took it. And in the end, because I had built the character and they had built relationships with that character so well, killing Summer Blaze ended up advancing the story. It wasn't fridging her. Fridging a character is to kill somebody for the sole purpose of advancing someone else's story. For instance, it was very common in comic books that you'd kill a superhero's girlfriend so that the superhero would be like, no, you killed someone I cared about. And then they, go on a rampage or they, pick up the cowl again or whatever. But this wasn't a fridge because Summer Blaze had a reason to do what she did. She was an active participant. And when she died, it's her death that matters and how her death is going to affect these characters, but also how it affects other NPCs, the people who she touched. And the gaining their, learning about her intimacies also makes all of that make much more sense. It is a dangerous thing to kill a character, but it can be a rewarding thing. As long as you have established that it is done in such a way that people don't feel like they're being cheated out of something, and so that it doesn't make it so that that character feels like all they did was exist to die. And since we didn't do that, that's how we ended up with this episode. I'm not actually going to continue with the rest of it. I think that that's kind of where I'd put it on a level now, because the rest of the episode is them kind of dealing with a lot of sort of story beats, taking the back to Ember. They continue to stay pretty emotionally, pretty emotional throughout the rest of the session. But in terms of this episode, that's something that I did that really, I was really quite proud of that episode after it finished. And I'm not often, I don't often feel pride. I often feel kind of nervousness or anxiety after an episode because I wonder whether I did a good enough job. I wonder whether it accomplished things. I wonder if people enjoyed it as much as they say they did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in this one, along with those, I also allowed myself to feel a little bit like, okay, maybe I've done something right. If I can get that kind of reactions, not just from the players, but also from the chat, from the audience, then it's possible that people actually do give a shit. And I mean, for any game, that's got to be worth something. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm sorry that there wasn't a Changeling episode this week, but there will be one next week. That'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there will be streams throughout the week. I'm hoping that I might be able to get a stream in this week myself, because there may be a few evenings where I may be on my own. So it would be a nice thing to connect with all of you. We might play a game or whatever. In the meantime, I'm really appreciative that people showed up here. Real Request says, for anyone in the audience who doesn't know or feel like going on a TV Tropes Bridge, fridging comes from a specific comic in which a character, I think it's a Green Lantern, finds his girlfriend dismembered in his fridge. Yes, that's absolutely true. It's considered by many people to be unnecessarily gruesome and cruel for a simple plot instigation, thus the trope naming. Yeah, I think this is one of the top 3 moments for me too in this series. It was a really good moment, and it's hard to sort of replicate that. It's hard to because I kill characters so infrequently, or at least PCs so infrequently, or NPCs that are good guys. Then it is something that I hope to do. When I do it, I want to do it well. I don't want to do it at random. I don't want to necessarily do it in a Joss Whedon style, because while I think that Joss Whedon doesn't kill characters indiscriminately, the way that he kills characters occasionally feels like it's it's specifically. I know that there you can say like it's because sometimes life deals that kind of hand to you. At the same time, I don't like the idea that some deaths feel random, or that some deaths feel like they're there to make the audience feel badly. So it hurts. But I tried not to do that. I want a death to feel good at the end. I want a player when a death occurs, I want a player to walk away from that feeling like it really added something to the story. And because in a role-playing game, the players are supposed to be heroes in a lot of, not always, but in a lot of games, you also want to make sure that they feel like heroes. And sometimes death is a way to remind them of the stakes, but it's also to remind them that they fail sometimes. A dangerous thing, but it can be really, really worthwhile. So thanks for tuning in. Hey, if nothing else, there's most likely going to be a Punchy on Fridays. There's most likely going to be a story Saturday, perhaps on Saturday, or if not, there will be another stream that comes out of it. But there will be Changeling. And if you don't mind, why don't you go and tweet Scott at Shumfrey1212 on Twitter. Go tweet at him and tell him to stream again, because I'd really like to see that more. Anyway, some Joss Whedon deaths also feel like they end a storyline that would be better if they lived. Yep, absolutely. But hey, he is a very successful storyteller, and I'm here with you. I'm not sure that I'd trade places. I wouldn't mind the money though. Here, Summer Blazes is referring back to as someone who believed in them often. Yeah, she's referred to. She continues to come up, which helps. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.